Welcome to another episode of 10 Minutes with Pastor Femi. It's also lovely to always have you here with us. We are continuing our discussion on this anatomy of being cold. We are trying to dissect and trying to analyze what makes somebody to become cold. Number one, we've seen that people contribute a lot to whether we are hot or cold, whether we continue in our direction or not. Human beings, the people in our lives, they mean a lot. Paul said, "Who is hindering you?" And these people, they were never saved until somebody also got into their life. So the people that come into your life, they influence you a lot. The right people will help you to progress. The wrong people, they will destroy you and they will pull you back. So don't let the wrong people come into your life. The other reason we saw is that you can actually move away from the right people. You are separating yourself, isolating yourself. Something happened to you, and then you just feel, well, I don't like the way they talk to me. I don't like the way they treated me. I don't think they understand me. Why am I the only one? Or why is God treating me like this? Why is God not faithful to me? How come God disappointed me? I mean, upon all that I've been doing for God, why should God make all of this to happen to me? And then you just separate yourself. And that is exactly what the devil wants. Don't ever allow that to happen to you. Today, we want to look at another reason, why, how we become cold and the things that really helps us to become cold. The other reason is complacency. Complacency. That means we just lower our guards over time. Over time, when you're a Christian, over time, you're a leader, over time, you have been doing something over time. Complacency always coming, because familiarity. Maybe that's another way I can really put it. Familiarity. You've been around for so long. You've been doing the same thing for so long. You are so used to it, so it doesn't really excite you anymore. It doesn't pose much challenge to you anymore. It is no longer an adventure. You know what is going to happen. So your life has just become a routine. Your experiences have just become a routine. So that means once you have been around for a very, very, very long time has a way of destroying and killing our zeal and our fire. Because over time, you kind of have seen virtually all that needs to be seen. You've seen all the ups and downs. You've seen all the intricacies of things. You've seen through everything. I mean, what have you not experienced? So you told yourself, you kind of tell yourself, well, there is nothing new, and then you just coast along. And then also over time, because of familiarity, and you are so used to doing something, you can actually do them without thinking. Before now, maybe anything you want to do, because you don't know it so much, you spend more time, you pray more, you study more. You don't want to be caught napping. You want to grow. But now you've grown a lot. People are now looking up to you. You know the Bible. You can quote the Bible. You can preach so many messages without even thinking. You can talk to people about Jesus without having to think about it. You already know the scriptures to use. You know the kind of questions people ask. You already have the answers, already ready-made and filed out somewhere there in your compartment. So anytime you're talking, you just look for it, and then you can just bring it out, because people have asked you the same question over and over and over. So you become more or less like an expert, but unfortunately, you're no longer striving to do more. And then you just plateau. You just stay there, because you are able to do virtually all that is being required of you without having to think, without having to lift a finger, without having to push yourself. That's a very, very terrible state to be in. And many times we find ourselves in this kind of a state. And when we find ourselves in this kind of a state, we just go to sleep. Look at it, what's happened to these people in Matthew chapter 25. It's the story of the virgin, the 10 virgin. I'll read it from verse 1. The Bible said, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept." This is an amazing, story. We are so used to this story, but let's look at it closely. Now, all these people, they went to wait for the bridegroom. We don't know how long they waited, but you can be sure that while they were waiting, when they just got there, because they were eager, they were expecting the bridegroom. If they know that it's going to still take 2 years for the bridegroom to come, or 1 month for the bridegroom to come, you can be sure that they won't go at that time. They will wait, until maybe about some few hours or 1 day or 2 days to the arrival of the bridegroom to show up. So when they showed up, they actually thought that the bridegroom was going to come very quickly, maybe in another few hours or maximum in a day, if he gets delayed. So they were waiting. So they prepared to wait for a day. And you can be sure the eagerness, the joy, the happiness, the expectation, that was in their heart. And, the how sensitive they were. They were on the lookout for anything, any movement, any news. And you can be sure that they did that for hours, and probably even for 1 or 2 days. But by the end of 5 days, 3 days, 4, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, and the bridegroom has not showed up, you absolutely know that at that time everybody will just be lowering their guards. Nobody's that expectant anymore. Everybody's just feeling, well, this man is delaying. We don't know when he's going to come, and before you know it, people start getting involved in different things. That's why the Bible says, while the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. The real issue here is the fact that the bridegroom tarries. They have time. This was something that they didn't prepare for. They didn't think that they will need so much time, or that they will have to spend so much time. So the longer you stay, the more you lower your guards, the more complacent you become. And what happened? People who have been very watchful before, people who have been very expectant before, they just went to sleep. They just went to sleep. That means they were no longer active. They were no longer watching, because when you are sleeping, you're no longer watching. The sleeping here can be, basically factual, real, and in real time, physically sleeping. But it could also be figurative. They went to sleep. They slept off on their faith. They gave up. They backslide. They were backsliding, and all of those kind of stuff. So different things that they could have done. But bottom line is that they lost focus. They were no longer in pursuit. They were no longer that expectant. Well, they still know that the bridegroom is going to come, and they are hanging around for the bridegroom. But the bridegroom is no longer the number one priorities of their lives. So they are already going back. That's what happened to us when you have so much time, when you have been around for so long. You are so used to everything. You know how everything is going to be. And we said you just go to sleep. So long time for being around is a problem. Is really a problem. Time is a problem, especially when you have been around for so long. If you have been a Christian for so long, you need to really watch it. You need to go check yourself. If you have been doing a particular job for so long, you need to check yourself. Whatever you have been doing, if it has been for a long time, you need to review yourself. You need to ask questions. You need to go for feedback. You need to go for retraining. You need to ask people to help you to analyze, am I still doing it right? Because you can be sure that if you have been doing something for so long, when it is properly analyzed, you must have started cutting corners because you are so used to it. And that is a problem. You are beginning to lose the touch with growing it. You are already reducing it. And then you are no longer striving in that area. So you must be active to keep yourself, going on. In 1 Timothy chapter 3, I'm going to read from verse 14. This is what Paul said to Timothy. He said, "These things write I unto thee, hoping to come unto thee shortly. But if I tarry long," you see, he said, in case I don't come on time, in case there is time lapses, in case you have to do something for so long. This is Paul's recommendation. He said, if I tarry long, so you need to know that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave yourself in the house of God. If I tarry long, be conscious of yourself. If time comes in what you are doing, so then you need to be conscious of yourself. You need to keep reminding yourself how to do the things that you are doing, whether you are doing them right. So you need to know how you ought to behave yourself. So when time comes in, you need to behave yourself. You need to check your behavior. You need to check the way you are doing. So if you have been a pastor for so long, you need to check your behavior. If you have been a Christian for so long, you need to check your behavior. If you have been a church leader for so long, you need to check your behavior. If you have been around doing something, even for a year is a long time. Even 6 months is a long time. If you have been doing anything for any appreciable amount of time, you need to check your behavior, because the tendency to have changed, the tendency, to be cutting corners, to be lax in some of those things is very, very high. So you need to really check your behavior. So Paul said, if I tarry long, you need to know how you ought to behave yourself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and the ground of the truth. So you need to know how to behave yourself. You must check yourself. Time is a major challenge, to our faith and to our consistency. It makes us to go down, and it makes us to lose our fire. Lord, help us, God, to number our days, to be counting our days and realize that even though you are giving us time, you are giving us that time for a major purpose. And let us never lose sight of that purpose so that we don't become complacent. In Jesus' name, amen.